Hi guys, this is Virag from Bionic Buzz, and tonight we are celebrating in the Hollywood Legion Theater the 50th anniversary and the end of the Vietnam War. What do you think? We are on an event tonight what is about the end of the Vietnam War, so we are celebrating that. What do you think? What is the message of this event for today?
I think the message today is just remembrance of what happened 50 years ago, and honoring those soldiers that wrote poems. I'm honoring a Lenape man from the East Coast, a Native American, and just honor and remembrance.
In the Reservation Dog, what you were working on, did you have any memories about when you had to deal with the thoughts of having in a war?
Yeah, I'm
being in a war and the Reservation
Dogs. No, not in Reservation Dogs. It's a comedy, and they didn't really touch on anything to do with the war.
Okay, so what is the project you're working on now?
Right now I'm working on a series I just wrapped called Dark Winds, which I do actually play a vet. It doesn't come up very often in the show, but Joe Leaphorn, he's a Navajo detective, chief of police on the Navajo Reservation, and he was in World War II.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and please share your social media with us.
My social media? Zahn McClarnon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you are here tonight to celebrate the end of the war, end of the Vietnam War. What are your thoughts about it?
So, what am I what?
What are your thoughts about it?
I think it's wonderful that we're all coming together and honoring the veterans, and we're recognizing that these storytellers, these wonderful writers, have some incredible gifts and words to help us all share and remember in whatever way we can.
What is the message for the people today? This event?
Oh, I don't know if there's one particular message. I think we will let the stories just sit and be, and allow everybody else to have their own message.
What is the current project you are working on?
Just finished 1923 with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren, and now I'm working on a play that I just wrote, so I'll be busy with that.
Can you share something about it?
Certainly. It's called The Cage, and it's about, it takes place in a batting cage, and it's the length of a batting lesson, and it's about counterculture and cancel culture, racism, and mentor-mentee relationships.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you want, please share your social media with us.
Definitely. It's at Tim_DeKay. That's for Instagram, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
Are you kidding me? I'm excited.
So you were on the Ozark, and first of all, I would like to just highlight some shooting experiences, because this was such a wonderful show, and I think everybody watched it.
Everybody did watch it, especially in the beginning of the pandemic when the third season came out, and then there was a wave where everybody really watched it. So it was a great experience.
Can you highlight some memories behind the scenes?
Oh, sure. Gosh. I mean, there's so many things. I was murdered. I died in a lake, so I had to get dragged down a river with one eye open. That's a hard thing to do. But there's so many things. It was a great crew and a great company. Laura, Lenny, and I lived together while we were working, so that was nice. You know, we had many stories just eating popcorn and stuff like that. But also, oh my gosh, there were so many things. I love Mark Menchaca, who was like the love interest, and going through things together with someone like that was a great experience. It was we just get really vulnerable with each other when you're doing work. Sorry, there's somebody in my ear. But no, there's so many. It was a great time. Atlanta's a fascinating city, and again, the crew was amazing. And Jason leads an amazing ship. Jason Bateman appreciates every job, and so there's an expression that the fish stinks from the head. the head was a beautiful, not smelly fish. I mixed the metaphor,
But tonight we are here for something else. We are celebrating a very important anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. So what are your thoughts about it? What do you think about the event and about this celebration? What is the message actually of the event?
I mean, one thing that Cedering and Word Theater always do is mix great language, literature, with actors, hopefully skilled enough, and a community. And so this one that's obviously about the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War ending, it has a much more unique point of view and where we are. I mean, look who's here. Like, you walk up, it's very... it's moving when you realize who you're speaking to, who have lived an experience which I obviously haven't experienced. My grandfather did, my cousins have, 8 tours of duty, but I haven't experienced it, so it's going to go well, I hope.
Last question. What are you working on currently?
Oh gosh, I'm so lucky. So I premiered in the recent season of Handmaid's Tale as a big guy, Commander Mackenzie. I have a show opening this week called Rabbit Hole with Kiefer Sutherland. That's fantastic. And then I have something coming up called Sugar with Colin Farrell on Apple TV Plus, where I play his best friend. And finally, there's a show called The Sterling Affairs coming out on Showtime. So it's been a nice, busy time.
Yeah, sounds like it's a lot. So thank you so much for stopping by. So nice to meet you. You are an actress, so
actress and a singer, yes.
First of all, please share what are you working on currently?
Right now, I just shot a pilot. It's in editing, and we're very excited about it. I can't say much, but very excited, and I hope you all get to see it very soon.
Tonight we are here in the Legacy Theater and we are celebrating the 50th anniversary and the end of the Vietnam War.
Yes.
You probably just know it from the history books, but you probably have some opinion about it. Please share with us.
Well, I have veterans in my family. I don't think any of them went to Vietnam, or maybe they did. I actually don't know that. I should ask some of my uncles, but what an incredible day to celebrate them, to hear their stories, because the stories that are going to be read today by people like Sharon Stone and Jason George, who was just standing next to me, are written by the veterans, which is crazy. And I'm opening the show with a song, and it's just so inspiring. It's the 20th anniversary of Word Theater, who is hosting this incredible 50th anniversary event, and just goosebumps. Like, I think it's going to be a lot of inspiration, a lot of tears, because I'm sure their experience was unbelievably, something that we can't even imagine. And to get to hear their words spoken by such incredible actors is going to be so amazing.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by, and please share your social media with us.
It's my name, at Antonique Smith, Antonique, Antonique Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where did they shoot the Station 19?
Right here, actually. Even though shows are set in Seattle, we actually shoot them right here in Los Angeles. Both Grey's Anatomy and Station 19 shoot here. Not on the same lot, so it can get really confusing for me some days to figure out who I'm, what lot I'm supposed to be going to when I'm supposed to call to work. I gotta pay attention, because I'm like, I've driven to the wrong lot. I've driven to the station when I was supposed to be at Grey's, and Grey's when I was supposed to be at Station 19.
What was the best memory of the shooting the show?
Oh wow, best memory. You know what? I mean, the best memories that I have are the ones that unfortunately the fans can never see, because it's the silliness that we get into off camera. Sneaking around, getting into trouble, doing things that we're not supposed to be doing, and messing with other actors while they're shooting a scene, that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that I enjoy.
We are talking about shooting. I mean, shooting could have has another meaning, like shooting with guns. And we are celebrating today to a good anniversary, because it was the end of the Vietnam War. So what are your thoughts about, what is your personal opinion about wars, and what you think, what is the message of this event?
I think there would be a lot fewer wars if the old men who send us into them had to send their own son, or they themselves had to go into. I think wars can be necessary. There are real wars that had to be fought. But I think there'd be a lot fewer if their own butt was on the line. My dad, who was a Vietnam vet, his favorite saying was a whole bunch of people in Washington, D.C. writing checks for somebody else's butt to cash. And that always had a lot of meaning to me as a kid, that you're making promises for somebody else to keep. And it's easy to do when it's not you. It's not your life, it's not your money. But when it is your money or it's your child, then you think a lot harder about it. Sometimes it's still necessary, but you think a lot harder about it.
What is the project you're working on now, currently?
Oh, as soon as I finish, I'm actually talking to I'm meeting with some directors about some projects right after Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy wrap, and we're wrapping the next 3-4 weeks, and there's a movie I might start right after that, and there's actually a couple other TV projects I'm trying to get going off the ground, which I'm having a lot of fun with. It's trying to do a lot of things. It's a really interesting time in television right now.
Well, thank you so much, and please share your social media with us.
It's at Jason W. George on Twitter and at Jason Winston George on Instagram.
Thank you so much.
And great to be here tonight, important night for being a legendary theater, the Hollywood Legion Theater, which is an old Art Deco building. But reading the words of these authors, and there's quite a few here that have, dedicated themselves to the word, and we're going to hear them.
And you were on the Independence Day movie. So could you highlight some memories, maybe some behind-the-scene memories for us that you think?
Of Independence Day? Well, there's a lot of support for that movie, which is really good. It was one of those. It's great to work in a lot of different kinds of movies, and then somehow every once in a while one of them will become a kind of classic. And it's great to be part of a classic.
So what is your personal opinion about war, and what you think, what is the message of this event?
What was that question?
What is the message of this event, and what's your opinion about war?
Oh, yeah. Well, I wasn't drafted. I was old enough for 1 year being involved in the draft, but then wasn't. But my father served, and my uncles did, and everything, World War II. So I always am glad that I have two sons, that there's others that are willing to step up and take their place, because we need strong military. And so though it can be a very challenging experience for quite a few people, and I think taking care of them is what we're about tonight. I think we're about listening to their hardships, listening to what made them, made them value their experience in the service. And I think it doesn't have to be Labor Day or Memorial Day to think about those things. So that's why we're here.
Well, please share with us what is the project or the next upcoming project you are working on.
Well, I'm going to be got a few things cooking, and I start another job on Monday. So got just working. Yeah, when it's out. Yeah.
Thank you so much, then.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, John. It's really nice to meet you again and see you again. So we already had a conversation about the veterans in the Veterani event, and now I just want to continue this conversation about that. So, what do you think? What is the message of the Vietnamese War for the people today? What should we learn from it?
Well, we learned that it's not going to be over. It seems like it's now become more of a possible area. We're not getting drafted. People are going in because they don't get a job and they need some place to get work. So they go in the military. Sounds a little rough, but it's true. And it looks attractive sometimes to the football players and the guys that are looking for a little action. But they're also probably wanting to get married or have a family. They want a purpose. They want to serve. And that's maybe a little too quick, in my opinion. And some get through basic training. In movies, sometimes I go through some of the basic training. It's not like the real thing. I think my dad actually was in the Second World War. He was in the Corps, and he and his sisters all went in the military or in the service for Second World War. That was a war. But then there was the Korean War, and he asked in front of us as children, very small, "What is this? Why?" I mean, how you doing? I'm Alan. If it's not declared the way it was supposed to be, we don't see the same kind of desire to commit. Now it's because they need a job. That's my opinion, and that's weird. The experience is important, but people get killed, and they kill people. Why? We have to accept the fact you're serving your country in a different way than most people do. And once they get to these areas, whether it's Afghanistan or Middle East, they're there with a purpose. A lot of times, just being unsure of what's next can be very hard. But a lot of times there's people there. Some they may not like because they've been trained to have an enemy. But which one is the enemy? Where are you? Who is doing what? You have people there trying to help, women too, women in the military of ours. And a lot of times we make commitments to people because they're just kind of normal, but different culture. And after several years of service, your purpose becomes very deep. You know people. You may fall in love with their family or their children or somebody else. After 5 years, maybe 10 years, you're committed to the people you're working with. That's your family, and your purpose is constant where you are. Maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years now. Where do you go when you're done?
Good question. Good question.
Home. That's why we have to keep this going. This contact. People can't explain their personal experiences usually, but just contact.
And you were in a very iconic movie, The Hair, and you shot. Yes. So how do you remember the shooting experience? It brings up all of this topic. So
I loved the film and the people involved, but when it started developing, I didn't want to get involved. I was not a hippie in my mind. I respected young people, different than me, who may have dropped out, gone into what I saw as a spiritual purpose in their lives, their interpretation for peace in the world. I didn't smoke dope. I didn't drink yet. I started young though. When I was older, I drank, and I haven't for 30 years. But the point of this activity going on was, it was like poetry and other things that was new. And yet, one of my closest people I admired in school was a man named Jeff Miller, a young man. I thought of him as maybe a possible president someday. He was really good as a student, really good as a person, and he was shot and killed by the National Guard at Kent State. Not easy for me to take. I had already gotten married. I didn't go to college. I was working and I had little kids already. But I called my dad. I saw it in the morning paper in the Staten Island Ferry going to work in the morning. I went to school off and on for drama. But my dad had served in the Corps, Marine Corps, and I always respected him and my grandpa, who served in France. They didn't have a good time. They suffered even in their dreams. I heard it. But he was a good man. He was quiet. And he put his hand out to people before he spoke. Big basketball hand. But that was a way of getting back to where he lived, where he came from. And when I heard that about my friend, John, he said, John, calm down. It's God's will. It's God's will. People do things that they believe in. It's called service. He was doing what he thought was right.
Thank you so much for sharing this all with us. And you are here tonight to celebrate the anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. What do you think about this event, and what do you think? What is the message of this celebration?
Well, I think we're spreading the message of these authors, of these veterans who wrote. I'm reading a story from this book, Surrender, by Brian O'Hare. So I would encourage everybody to check out this book. It's not very long. It's not big. Anyone can read it, and it's reasonably priced. Let's see, where is it? I don't know. Whatever it is, it's worth it. So I'm thrilled to be here. My dad was in the Navy, so veterans' causes are always close to my heart.
What do you think? Why we need wars, if we need wars?
Why do we need wars? God, I don't know. It's beyond my pay grade. War is something that I think we'll see in a lot of these stories tonight. at the end of the day really just creates massive trauma that just gets passed down generation to generation. I'm not a fan personally.
Do you think also the military has, so we need the military because of protection?
Sadly, we need the military because of protection, and so, but it is sad. It's tragic because it's, violence creates trauma, trauma creates violence, and it's kind of an endless cycle.
So what should we learn from the Vietnam War?
Well, I think one of the important messages that you can learn from reading and listening to stories from actual vets who've lived through it is the true cost of war.
Did you already read the book?
I've read this story. I haven't read the whole book yet, so I'm looking forward to reading it. He just gave this to me tonight. Yeah, he's here.
That's exciting. So please share with us what is the current project you are working on, just to change the topic.
Oh, sure. I'm in an episode of Accused on Fox that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks, and then also NCIS LA coming up in a couple of weeks.
But NCIS LA has a lot of violence in. How you handle it as an actor?
It does. My scene, I'm playing the son of Gerald McCrary on the show, who's had a substance abuse problem and who's trying to get sober. So dealing with a different kind of violence.
Okay, different kind of challenge, yes. So please share your social media with us, and thank you for the interview.
Yeah, sure. You can find me at Chris Gorham on Twitter and Instagram, and there's the website. It's realchrisgorham.com.
Thank you.
Where are you from?
I'm Hungarian, but I'm working for an American outlet.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. So we are celebrating today the end of the Vietnam War. It's a big anniversary. What do you think about this celebration, and what do you think? What is the message?
Well, sadly, the message is that war seems to go on and on and on, I wish we could find a way to stop it. So the Vietnam War was going on when I was in high school, and friends of mine went there and died, and other friends tried to get out of the draft. It was a very difficult, terrible time, the late 60s, early 70s, but it seems to still be a terrible time in the world. I don't know why war keeps going, but it does, and it's terrible.
So how do you remember, just let's go a little deeper in this. You mentioned that you were a high school student at the time. It's such a fascinating time to be a teenager in that very, historical time. That was the hippie cultures and everything. So how do you remember of the school life? Did you really did what we've seen in the movies, that you were hippies and you are wearing lots of flowers and things like that?
No, I didn't do that. I like to watch it. I was interested in it. But I did sneak out one night to go to a Janis Joplin concert. That was like the most far out thing I ever did in my whole life, and I got in a lot of trouble for it.
I see. So what is the current project, what you're working on?
I'm just trying to do events like this and be as present as I can in my life.
So you dedicate your life for those?
Well, I have a family who still needs me, and so I'm very involved with my family, and I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Pieces being read here today, including one who won the Veterans Writing Award, Brian O'Hare, and I'm so proud of them. We've been here since 2016, helping vets. Some of them start out unhoused and then just become writers and make their living that way. So we are the SEAL Team 6 of veteran writing groups.
So how can we imagine your daily job on the UCLA?
Well, we do it on Zoom since COVID, which has had the added effect of we've expanded from just the local VA to all over the country. So there's one of our word commandos who's here in the audience, came on a train from Lithonia, Georgia. He's a Vietnam vet. His name is Gentle Culpepper, and he's such a good writer. He's inspired my writing, which is really something. So we do it on Zoom twice a week, 2 hours, so it's 4 hours total a week. We read a lot, and everything is in service to literature and just helping them put on the page what is screaming to get out of them.
Through on your work, did you see a lot of like trauma, like PTSD and
Yes.
veteran?
Yeah, and we don't restrict what they write about. We say if you want to write a short story about going to the grocery store, that's fine. If you want to write about your combat experience, that's fine. Sometimes a vet will write about that and there'll be a trigger warning, but everybody is so supportive, because they're all veterans. And my father was a naval flight officer in Vietnam alongside Brian O'Hare.
Maybe that was your motivation?
Yeah, very much. My father was in the Army before Vietnam, and then he went into the Navy, and he wound up flying alongside John McCain. And so I grew up the son of a warrior. And when UCLA, I was teaching in the summer there, high school kids from around the world. And they said, is there anything else you want to teach? I said, I want to teach creative writing. And they go, well, yeah, because I got an MFA. And they said, well, we are in talks with the VA across the freeway to teach a creative writing workshop to veterans with PTs who got that far. And I go, that's me. That is me. Don't talk to anybody else. I am the person, okay? Here's my resume. Here's samples of my work. This is what I do. And I walked out of there thinking, this will never happen, because the collective bureaucracy of the VA and UCLA, you want this too bad, this is not going to happen. 2 weeks later, I got a call. This is in 2016. You're hired. For what? For the veterans. Oh, wow. So I showed up the first class. There were 6 veterans, very diverse in terms of gender, ethnicity, and age. I had bags of books. I had a pressed shirt, high and tight haircut, and I shined my shoes. And I just started talking to them in their language, using all the acronyms. I knew how to. They started to lean in, and then I said, the UCLA West LA VA creative writing workshop for veterans with PTSD is too damn wordy. You guys need a good handle. My Twitter handle for years has been Word Commando. You're the Word Commandos. And they just yelled, Word Commandos. And I said, and I'm your gunny, which is like gunnery sergeant. And they go, gunny, gunny. And that's how it was born.
Thank you so much to share this. It was a very fascinating story. Thank you.
Well, I hope I didn't go on too long.
Sounds fantastic. So please share something about it. Let's go a little deeper about your role. Please share something about your role.
About my role on the show or for tonight?
Well, let's start tonight and then share something about the show.
Sure. So this evening I'm going to be reading the story that was written by the first black female POW that was taken captive in Iraq. And so it's, I don't want to give it away, but it'll just sort of tell the story of the moments leading up to when she became a POW. Yeah, so very intense.
So what is your connection to the whole community, to who are celebrating tonight?
To the military community or to Word Theater?
Yeah, well, I would say military community, if you have some personal connection.
Sure. Yes, I didn't really have a strong connection before, but 7 years ago I started working on a TV show that was all military based, and so that really opened up my whole mind and heart to this community that in a way that I never would have before. And so now pretty much my whole career is military centered at this point.
So did it change you when you started to work on the show? I mean, your personality changed and your opinion about the military, maybe?
I think it did. It's hard for it not to. You're telling these heart-wrenching stories, and we're tied to the community. It's the real people that we're talking about. You know what I mean? It's not like we're not doing fantasy. So we're talking about real issues, real people, and so it's hard not to hear stories now on the news and take a different. I hear it differently now, knowing what those moments might be like, feeling it from the inside, and also being able to interact with the military community. I've been able to spend so much time around the world with different branches of the military, and that's been so fulfilling and really helpful to portray a woman in the military on TV.
We heard a lot of actually bad stories about women in military. Did you hear anything when you were around them?
Yes, of course. I mean, I think any scenario in which you're outnumbered creates for a delicate, potentially dangerous situation. And I think that you're seeing that not just with women, you're seeing that with the trans community within the military, you're seeing that with the LGBTQ, like the whole situation. So I think that it's really important that we stay talking about these issues and making sure that they're not in any way taboo. We have to tell these stories. And even on SEAL Team, I think it was 2 seasons ago, we tackled a sexual harassment story with the dynamic of a higher up officer and how that power can be abused. And so we have to keep talking about that. So absolutely, it's a good thing you brought it up.
And one last question, what is the project you are working on currently?
Currently, I'm getting ready to do season 7 of SEAL Team. So we're going to go into production, and that will be wonderful. It'll be on Paramount Plus, so keep a lookout.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations, and please share your social media with us.
Thank you. Yes, social media at Toni, Toni Trucks.
Thanks. Thank you.
My name is Elaine Little. I'm one of the writers that's being featured this evening. My piece, Bitter Tea, is being read by Sharon Stone. And I'm a member of the Word Commandos, and the Word Commandos is a group of, is a writing group that focuses on veterans and their writing. And we are fortunate enough to be working with Word Theater, and a couple of the members of the group, actually 3 members of the group, are being featured tonight. And so it really gives us a great opportunity to get our work out there. A few years ago I was just publishing in very obscure literary magazines, and now I have a piece that's being read by Sharon Stone. And so it's very exciting for me.
How did this connection come with Sharon Stone?
Well, the Cedering Fox, who's the person who runs Word Theater, she gets actors to do these readings, and so she set that up.
So she picked it up, basically. So she got several novels, and this is how she picks up from them. She's chosen one.
Well, yeah, we submitted writing to our Robert Morgan Fisher, who's the person that runs Word Commandos, and then he submits them to Cedering Fox, and then she chooses the right actor to read the piece.
What attracted to this topic?
Well, the topic I wrote about was when I was in Afghanistan, and I was an interrogator in Afghanistan, and so it was an experience I had there, and so it really brought back a lot of memories, and I really wanted to express what I felt about the experience being deployed in the Army from 2004 to 2005.
And what do you think? Last question. What do you think? What should we learn from the Vietnam War?
Well, as far as the Vietnam War, I guess what should be learned is, that we need to be more careful about, where we decide to, send our troops. It's a very, and in how soon we get out. And, sometimes it seems like there's a delay and, government bureaucracy and all that, but, if you have to make a decision. And so it's, Vietnam War was a very sad experience for the United States, and hopefully we've learned something.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this thoughts, and enjoy the evening.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I'm Brian O'Hare, the author of the 2021 Veterans Writing Award book, Surrender, chosen by National Book Award winner Phil Clyde.
And it came out last November, I heard.
Yeah, in November, yeah.
Did you already got some feedbacks?
Oh, it's the greatest book that came out in 2022. No, actually, the feedback has been sort of overwhelming. I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. It's basically demythologizing a certain kind of American masculinity. The title Surrender refers to surrendering the mythology of, that we all sort of grow up with, whether it's like, how to be a man, this sort of thing. And it's like surrendering that mythology. And I think the book is about personal liberation in a way, because we all sort of labor under these mythologies, personal mythologies, family mythologies, tribal, national. So it's about surrendering all of that.
So how did you find the topic? What was your inspiration?
My father died in 1998. He was a Marine pilot in Vietnam, flew 307 missions, and he was this larger-than-life guy. And for me, it was my first sort of connection to a mythology, and when he hooked his very considerable mythology to that of the Marine Corps, which I think has a mythology that is only rivaled by the world's great religions, it sort of rocked my world and started me asking the question, like, so what does that mean? What did all this mean? All these choices that I made, these things that I did, and so out of that came this book.
I saw a pin on your jacket.
Yeah.
It's I love LAPL. What does it mean?
I love the Los Angeles Public Library with all my heart. Forever.
So what is the next book you're working on? Probably you already started to think or work on another one.
Absolutely, and it would diffuse the magic a little bit if I tell you about what it's about, but rest assured I am hard at work on the follow-up to Surrender.
Thank you so much for stopping by and congratulations.
Thank you so much, what a pleasure.
Please share your social media with us. Where can we find you?
Yes, Instagram at Bohare13X, BOHARE13X, and it's the same thing for Twitter as well. And that's or BrianO'Hare.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is April Webster. I'm on the board of Word Theater, and I'm a casting director here in Hollywood.
Yeah, so you were the casting director of Star Trek, am I correct?
Oh, yes, I was. How'd you know that? Did you just Google me?
Well, nowadays everybody is like it's very informative anyway. So we are here tonight in this event, and we are remembering, and this is a nice anniversary to ending a war, what was the Vietnam War in America. What do you think about it? What are your thoughts? Please share something about it.
About this program, you mean?
I mean, just your thoughts, what you think about it.
I don't know.
Okay, sorry. It's my fault. Okay, let's just say this. What should we learn about? What should we learn about the Vietnam War?
I think in this case for the program tonight, it's about really getting some kind of handle on what the experience was for the people who participated in it. And I was speaking to another vet earlier this evening, and civilians don't always understand what that life is. And I think that tonight, not only will we be touched by what the stories are, but hopefully get a better understanding of what that experience of being in war is. I worked on a show called Tracers and got to know a lot of the Vietnam vets from that. And I had no idea how their experience was until I started hearing some of their stories. It changed me just from hearing that. I don't know how people come back from it, frankly. I don't know how they come back from war with the things that they see. So hopefully tonight we'll get some insight so there doesn't feel like such a separation. I think that oftentimes there's like a feeling of not understanding and that separation there. So
as a casting director, you worked on the show. When you made the casting, how did you choose? What did you choose? How can you? Not just on Star Trek, in that show, what was about the Vietnam War. So you probably look for some.
I didn't cast that. I was working in the theater, and these guys had created. John DeFusco and the company had created this play called Tracers. It's been done all over the world, and it was a very powerful piece that gave me some insight into what these guys had gone through, their language and the way that they expressed themselves. It's a completely different thing that I knew anything about. And here I was protesting the Vietnam War as a teenager, but not really understanding what was involved for the guys who did go over. So.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Nice to meet you. I am Virag from Bionic Buzz, and you are here tonight to represent the Vietnamese and American authors. Please share something about yourself and share some thoughts with us.
I'm an author myself. I wrote 2 books about my life growing up Vietnam War, and made into a movie by Oliver Stone called Heaven and Earth. And in the book is about the war, about the American, about the veteran, but it's a healing book. The book is to bring 2 countries together. The book is bring human beings together. It's a one university family. The book is about kindness, forgiveness, and compassion to one another. We want peace. We don't want any more war. And so that is why the book and the movie is to bring for the veteran, the healing. And I invite the veteran to return to Vietnam for the last 40 years. And we had a nonprofit that work in Vietnam. So many veterans giving back to Vietnamese people. And that is the healing that they present. And I'm very happy to have them on my side.
Did your book get published also in Vietnam?
Oh no, it's here. It's here. It's 30 some years ago. This year is a 30 year for Heaven and Earth celebration for 30 years. And so it's very happy year for me.
Did you go back, or have you ever been back to Vietnam after the war?
Yes, I'm working there for the last 40 years through my foundation, and Oliver Stone is a co-founder of our nonprofit foundation. So I took him back with many other veterans, and so I just came back from there 1 week ago tomorrow. And so I'm going back end of May. So we have 3-4 orphanages there that we want to support, and we wanted to bring them to U.S. to study and learn English. So that is why we back and forth all the time.
One more question. What would be your message for the people today in America from you?
We go through a very rough time, and I want everybody to open up for one another. It's compassion, forgiveness, and move on. Not holding back too much of Vietnam War or about any other war, but the best is to just move on and forgive, but don't forget. And that is mainly between U.S. and Vietnam, especially the veteran and their family.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Daniel Dreyfuss, and I'm a producer of Quiet on the Western Front.
So some weeks ago, before the Oscars, I had a conversation with Albrecht, and I was asking him how was it to be on this movie and how was the shooting experience from your side as a producer. What did you go through? And you won an Oscar since that.
Well, for me, it was a very long process to tell people that the story was worthy of being made again, because it's timely, it speaks to the world today, and of course, the shoot itself is a challenge, and it's always difficult because of the conditions, and it was COVID. But for me, forever, the hardest thing was convincing people that it should get made and getting it to the point where it would eventually be in partnership with Germany, a project that was being realized.
Why did you believe that we need another war movie?
Because it's an anti-war movie. It's a movie that tells us that war is not the answer under any circumstances. And it has been a story. My family fought in World War I. My family was sent to a concentration camp. After that, my grandfather specifically. And so I knew those people very well. His cousin was one of the people who died in the last few hours of World War I. And so I knew that story, and I knew that it would resonate with the world today. What I did not imagine is that we would be having yet another war in Europe when the film came out, which makes it sadly all the more timely.
What would be your message for the people today who are, we should see differently the World War, and we should see differently the Vietnam War, and tonight we are celebrating the end of the Vietnam War. So would you have any message of what should we learn from all of these wars?
I think that we have to remember that, as I said, that war is not the answer. There's no winners really in war. We have to applaud the men and women who bravely fight and dedicate themselves in this effort, of course, and the veterans, of course, and feel for the young men and women who are again being sent to fight in this senseless war in Ukraine. But war really is not the answer. As an effort, and the film is an anti-war effort, and I think that the people here who are so brave and honorable are also mostly, we can look back and realize that the Vietnam War was a mistake.
Can you see yourself in the future to producing another war movie?
Not right after this one. Give me a break to tell another kind of, there's so many stories to tell, and maybe there's a story I could find in World War II, perhaps.
Thank you so much, and please share your social media with us if you...
It's Daniel_Dreyfuss, Dreifuss.
Thank you so much, and congratulations for the Oscars.
Thank you, appreciate it.